We got Cardinals, Jordan Walker. We got World Baseball Classic. Lars Nootbaar is the face of baseball. The United States can't beat Mexico anymore in baseball. As a country now, should we be ashamed? Where should we start here? Jordan Walker's doing backflips, apparently.
Let's start with Jordan Walker, who dealt with what they called a slight shoulder strain. He would be reevaluated yesterday. He told reporters he got checked out and he is fine, which is good news because he's been unbelievable this spring. The Cardinals yesterday beat Washington 5-1. Cardinals lineup not what it would normally look like based on everyone being at the World Baseball Classic. But Matt's got another start, 3 2/3 inning, gave up 1 earned run, struck out 5. His ERA on the spring is 1.35. Make what you want of it as you will because, as I said, it depends on how you look at spring training. It can be fool's gold. Helsley, who has back-to-back outings now of 3 strikeouts yesterday, 1 inning, nothing except for 3 strikeouts. And the other guy who has looked very, very good is Verhagen. He pitched a scoreless inning yesterday. His ERA is 0. And Hicks has been beaten up a little bit. I think Hicks is a key part of the bullpen. I'm not saying he's the make-or-break guy in the bullpen, but if Jordan Hicks can be what we've seen him be when he's healthy, very good. He's had kind of a rough spring. Hicks with a scoreless inning and 3 Ks yesterday, so some good news for the pitching staff.
And how about this? Shout out to Ryan Loutos, who I talked with a couple years back because it was when Wash U made the D3 College World Series. Here's a dude that was pitching at Wash U. And he's thinking, okay, I'm going to go to Wash U. Had a great career. Maybe I'll take a job. I think it was up in Chicago with finance or something like that. And he gets signed by the Cardinals. He got the save in the game yesterday through, recorded 1 out. But this was a dude who threw pretty hard in college as a starter, but then became a reliever and now is throwing mid to upper 90s and has a chance now to make, not necessarily this year, I mean, he could, but he could be a big league pitcher. This dude went to Wash U as a starter and now has a chance to make the Cardinals, again, maybe potentially at the end of this year or next year, whatever it is. But that's a pretty dang cool story. He got the save yesterday.
Yeah, the bullpen has been a spot that I've really been keeping an eye on how they're looking at. I mean, to me, obviously Jordan Walker, big subject. I think he's checking boxes daily, it seems like. Mason Wynn, continues to be not a revelation, but I think he's starting to change kind of the narrative around, what that position could look like going forward, too. But the bullpen is interesting because they've got a lot of options for not that many slots based on the way that some folks are pitching now. You bring up Drew Verhagen, who was a bit of an afterthought because of the injuries last year. You look at Chris Stratton that came in. Jordan Hicks, you feel, has got to have a spot. But, I mean, you want to feel better about the performance. Helsley goes out, strikes out 3, in an inning yesterday as well. I'm excited to see how this shakes out over the next couple of weeks, and it's one of the reasons why I'm happy that the WBC is going on right now because I think it's going to give you a chance to see a lot of guys you might not get as much exposure to.
I like the Cardinals bullpen. I think they have a lot of weapons, different type weapons out there, but you always got to remember, too, like a guy like Zach Thompson, if there's an issue with the starting rotation, which there always seems to be, he's a guy that goes from a guy who I think is going to have a big year out of the bullpen. I think his stuff is really, really good. I like his demeanor and everything, but he's a guy who could be in the rotation. You have Dak as backup. We don't know what's going to be with the starting rotation. Waino, by the way, looked very good in his start for Team USA, but they also have some depth. Some of these guys could be depth in that rotation, which every year, whether or not you like it, you probably need.
Well, you mentioned those guys. They got Palante in the mix. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to down there. The thing that I hope doesn't happen is that you've got 7 or 8 starters, and you're like, all right, you're going to go ahead and put them into the pen, and then they don't get a chance to keep that rhythm. They're not working a lot. Early in the season, you'll have a lot more opportunities to get into it and need more arms. But I'm curious to see how people adjust to probably what's guaranteed to be some new roles on the team this year.
And I know you tweeted this out, Kat. I'm also high on Zach Thompson. He might be their top lefty out of the pen.
I think without a doubt.
And so to me, if you're looking at him right now, you're saying, hey, you're a bullpen guy. You have Dakota Hudson. You have Jake Woodford. as your depth starters, even somebody like Liberatore, I think at this point in his career, Liberatore can still start the year at AAA, and you feel okay with that. He has not earned yet to be in the conversation of, oh, should we put him on the big league roster? And to me, that's where Dakota Hudson and Jake Woodford are in different spots than Matthew Liberatore. They have nothing more to prove at AAA, and I think if there's no injuries to the starting rotation, which as of now, there haven't been, and Flaherty pitched pretty well as well on Saturday, but to me, I want Dakota Hudson and Jake Woodford in the bullpen to start the year.
Yeah, I think. I don't really think you've got any other choice. I mean, you're gonna have Michaelis. You're gonna have Wainwright. You're gonna have Montgomery. You're gonna have. Again, we're knocking on every tree in the city that all these guys stay healthy. But when you look around there, I mean, it's a really interesting year. And Kat, to your point about Zach Thompson, is that Andrew Miller wasn't a guy, I think, that lit the world on fire while he was here. He wasn't the guy he was before he came in, but he did pitch a lot of those left-handed innings. And the thing that I clamored for was, are you going to go out and bring somebody in for that side? I hope Genesis Cabrera is in a good place. I need for Zach Thompson to be that, because it's very clear that they're saying you're going to have to be the guy that works in that space.
I don't know what Genesis is going to be. I mean,
yeah,
we've seen him really, really good where he's a key piece. We've seen him where he's dealing with some stuff and he's not. I just think if you're looking at who's trending in the right spot, it's got to be Zach Thompson right now. So, we'll see. I also saw it for Team Canada. Our boy Tyler O'Neill looked good. That's, we
4 hits?
Yeah, 4 hits. And
tonight, that's the game. USA Canada.
Oh, I didn't even know that's the game. We haven't got to our WC
We will.
breakdown yet. But you like to see that from him because we haven't seen him in a little while. But that's a guy, too. Like, I put out there a couple things. Like, if this guy's a stock I'm buying, I put that out there for Tyler O'Neill, and I put that out there for Zach Thompson. Those are 2 guys who I think are going to have big seasons.
I'm trying to buy all the Brendan Donovan I can right now.
4 homers already.
I'm trying to get all of it I can. I think that he's going to make this situation be even more complicated about who do you keep, who do you don't, who goes. Listen, Cardinals got a lot of the right kind of problems right now as far as that infield goes.
That makes it simpler to me, though. All right, Donovan's at second base, right? Okay, so Gorman will be the lefty bat DH.
Well, that's an interesting question. I was going to just bring this up. I know he's got the shoulder strain, but right now, when Jordan Walker is literally the best hitter in all of the Grapefruit League, at this point right now, you can't leave him off the roster. So to me, as of whatever today is, March 13th, he is your starting left fielder on opening day. Now, where you bat him, that's another fun conversation to have. But if you start there, that Jordan Walker is now the starting left fielder, you do have on the first game of the season a question about who to play in terms of most likely a Dylan Carlson or a Nolan Gorman, probably not Newt, but somebody won't start.
Well, I
think about that.
I think right now it's Dylan Carlson.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, right now, you'd probably go O'Neill center, Newt right. If you're facing a righty, you're most likely going with Gorman as the DH. But that shows you how good and how deep this lineup could be. If Jordan Walker is starting, which he should, that changes the whole complexion. Now you're sitting somebody who's really, really good on the first game.
I'll be honest. I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't care who starts early on in the season. I care who's on the roster. But as it sits right now, too, like another guy who has shown what he can do, who's valuable, is a guy like Yepes, who might not even make the team. That shows depth to me. I don't care early on who's starting where, because that stuff always sorts itself out. But then if you have guys who legitimately should be on the team and don't have a spot, that tells me the depth that they have, which it could be really, really good.
Yeah, that's where, for me, the rotation is still the concern. I think they have depth pieces if there's an injury. I'm not worried about Adam Wainwright. I know he got through his appearance. It was Great Britain, not exactly a baseball power. Probably the worst uniforms I've ever seen in the history of the World Baseball Classic. Did give up a lot of hits, a lot of traffic. I still think we got to see more from Adam Wainwright. But overall, knock on wood, because so far with the rotation, health has been good.
Opening day, you're probably going to see Alex Manoah for the Blue Jays. So I mean, you're going to be looking at trying to get those lefties in there and what that means. I don't know. A lot of good problems we're talking about right now. But these next couple of weeks, well, hopefully these next couple of weeks, while the USA is still plugging along. Last night wasn't all that encouraging, but we'll see tonight. I'm sure we can lay some pressure on Canada to lay down for us tonight.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm saying, but I'm not saying. But
we could invade them. I mean, if the economy's starting to tank,
if Mexico and Canada send us, if we're the third best country in baseball in North America, I expect action.
Well,
repercussions.
We're counting Dominican and Puerto Rico.
Oh God,
as
that's
North
right.
America.
See, look at that. Well,
name me a world leader.
And also, how dare you take a shot? The uniforms are one thing; those were awful. But this Great Britain team is a pretty steady lineup.
They have what? Trace Thompson?
Trace Thompson was the poster boy.
And who else?
He took Waino deep.
He's pretty good.
Okay.
Oh, wasn't he a first-round pick? I know he's been up and down and was with the Dodgers. I think he went to the Tigers, came back.
He's damaged the Cardinals before in his career. I just don't know if he's an everyday player. I'm sure he'll have a spot in Major League Baseball. Probably not an everyday player, but he did his damage. And Waino, if you're watching his fastball, I mean, I didn't write down the numbers, but it looked like 86, 87. He was spotting it okay in some spots. But I agree. Waino's I think the whole season you're going to keep an eye on because of his age and where he is in his career. That's not a shot.
And so last night I am watching the USA-Mexico game, and Joey Meneses is now apparently the best player in all of baseball, along with
a great uniform, by the way,
Lars Newbar.
For our
Yes.
Mexican friends.
Their uniforms are awesome. His bat flip, I saw the second homer live, was legit right there. And I think it was very interesting. He was being second-guessed, Mark DeRosa was, on the broadcast by Ken Rosenthal and others. John Smoltz is on the game. I do think the World Baseball Classic is very interesting. And look, I take it seriously. I said I think it's cool. But you're also in a weird spot where Mark DeRosa, he has a script in his head where I have two bulk pitchers. They can throw whatever it is, 60, 65 pitches, but they also have to get their work in. And you have an obligation to their teams that are paying them to allow them to get their work in. And I think that played into him not pulling Brady Singer. Probably wouldn't have mattered, by the way. They're going to lose anyway. You would think. But that played into the factor of, I got to let this guy go out there and get his work in, and then he gives up another bomb.
No, then you tell your pitcher, go finish getting your work in the bullpen. A lot of pitchers do that.
No, I know, but I
Should
think
not factor in.
But it also factors into an innings crunch of how many innings you need to cover with how many starters you have moving forward for these games. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying
agree with that.
That is a factor. It's a factor in a game that really matters. That's cool. It's an exhibition game, but it's a tournament. You want to win it, but you also have to weigh these outside factors in terms of your pitchers getting their work in for spring training to build themselves up for the regular season for their home ball clubs.
Well,
so they're 1-1.
They're 1-1. They play Canada tonight. Tyler O'Neill, Freddie Freeman.
But is
Joey Votto on that team?
I don't know if Joey went. I can take a look here real quick. I just know that I feel good about Lance Lynn being on the mound tonight for the U.S. of A. Lance ain't going to go for it. Lance is going to go out there and do what he's got to do to get us back on track. I don't know how Freddie Freeman ended up being a Canadian. I think
he's dual.
Well, I mean,
dual citizenry, I believe. Could be wrong.
Votto is not on the roster.
They have
he's 50, so
Freeman. O'Neill's batting third for them. Is that Abraham Toro? Cal Quantrill?
Is that Max Julian playing second base for him? The Mac?
Is this John Axford?
Yes.
Still out there?
Yep.
Good for him. He's got to be about 40, right?
I think so.
Good for John Axford.
Well, it's Oscar time, and he's a big movie guy.
Sure.
So that's why they have him on there for his Oscar picks.
But Jordan Walker. So we're not concerned about the shoulder strain. Ollie came out and said, hey, this man, he's going to be sliding feet first. It's all good.
He
Stay
doesn't
healthy.
seem to be worried about it. So.
Big guy.
Not going to get more worried than he is.
No, I'm saying, but in the future, Jordan Walker, just slide feet first. Hey, we want you hustling. We love it. We love it that you're hustling out infield singles. We love, in theory, that you're sliding head first because you're playing the Cardinal way baseball. but just slide feet first. We need you, buddy.
So, speaking of how baseball is getting played, I saw a couple of stats yesterday from Jeff Passan that I thought were interesting because, the subject of once we're done with the, national pride portion of spring training is what's going to be the changes to the game based on some of the rule changes that are there. It says that the time of game this spring from just spring training alone has dropped from 3 hours last year to 2 hours and 36 minutes this year. The runs are up by 0.4, so they're up to 11 from 10.5. Stolen bases are up a full stolen base per game, and that the strikeout rate has dropped slightly, and that singles, stolen bases, and runs are up in general overall. Those aren't bad things. None of those things are bad things. I'm interested to see how that actually plays over if actual broadcast, when you've got a real true broadcast going on, still extends it out any. But I like to see that at least if you're going to change something, there seems to be some type of impact. And also that balls in play have a higher average as well. Much higher average, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. I don't think you're going to see the games be this short during the season. But I even think 2:30 to me, this has always been a television problem more than a at the game problem to me. And it's a regular season issue. It's not a postseason issue. I think I rarely see anybody complain about a 3.5, 4 hour really good playoff baseball game. But I think if you have 4 of those in a row during the week against the Pirates and you're watching at home, if I'm at the game, I don't know if I want 2:30. I think the reason I really like the NHL from a timing format standpoint is it's just a nice, tidy 2 hours and 40 or 2 hours and 45 minutes. Same with the NFL. The NFL is usually a nice 3 hours. Maybe it goes a little over to 3:10, but nobody complains about that. Baseball in recent years, college football is the one to me that it's like, dude, I mean, the clock stops just all the time. Every game seems like it's 3:45, pushing 4 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, college football can get out there. I mean, the national championship game was forever. I mean, it was decided
over 4
long
minutes
ago.
in.
Yeah, and you're just still sitting there watching it.
But I think the thing with the WBC, there's a certain amount of energy that you have that you're not going to have in an early season, regular season game in Major League Baseball. And so even though they don't have a pitch clock in there, you don't care if a game goes a little longer because there's more energy. I think it kind of underscores that it's not just a timing thing with baseball. You want to see the action condensed a little. Mm-hmm. And so they're doing everything they can because they play so many games in the regular season. They're trying to sort of inject that into the game, which is a good thing.
So what do you take from the performances? You talked about Tyler O'Neill had a big game. You see that Newbar's having success for Japan, who, by the way, is just plastering people right now.
4-0.
Yeah, and looking the part. Do you take the same things away from the performance that they're having at the WBC when you look at how ready they are to play when they're in their MLB uniform?
I think Kat's talked about this. If you like the guy, you want him to do well, oh, he's having a great spring. If you don't, oh, he's working on things. I just think, to me, it's more of a veteran versus young guy scenario. It's more of a proven versus you need to prove it. Like Jordan Walker did need to prove it. And he has so far. He's earned himself a spot on the roster. I think most people would agree. Lars Nootbaar, everybody was high on him. The fact that he's tearing the cover off the ball is great. On the other side of things, Wilson Contreras. I know he had a couple hits. I think he's hitting 250, whatever it is. I don't worry about him. Mm-hmm. I don't worry about Wilson Contreras because he's got 6-7 years in the big leagues. But somebody who's younger, who hasn't put it together for a full season, I look at those guys more and say, hey, let's show something.
So who's done the most for their stock for you?
Jordan Walker.
This spring?
Well, Jordan Walker by far, because I think entering the spring, don't you think it's fair to say that entering the spring, I think it was a less than 50% chance that he made the team. I think he was going to get a legit shot, but I thought there were so many good outfielders that are older than him. I didn't think the Cardinals would really give him a fair shake. I'd say, okay, if you're great, but we want to try Carlson, O'Neill, Nootbaar first. Even some of the older guys like a Juan Yepes that's been up there. So Walker, to me, has earned a spot on the team. Mason Wynn has really, really impressed me to the point where I'm feeling very good about him being the Cardinals shortstop as of right now in 2024. And he's probably up for a cup of coffee at the end of this year. And if there's an injury, he could be playing this year. So Drew Verhagen's another guy that I think his spring matters. Some of these guys, Jack Flaherty, his spring matters because he's been banged up. Some of these other guys, I don't worry about as much. Matt's his spring matters to me.
That's who I wanted to go to. Is that when you talk about all your rotation options and you look at what you have and what you don't have. I mean, I said it and I'll say it again. Last year's a throwaway year for Matz with me. I mean, he's on the roster, he got it, but I mean, he was hardly out there. So hopefully you get the impact that you anticipated getting last year from him this year. Flaherty is obviously, to me, the most pivotal guy. If he can be what he can be, that changes the roof of what the team can be. But, I mean, when they didn't do anything else in the everyday lineup after Contreras got signed, I said my tide with Jordan Walker started to shift some because I said they've got to be looking at this as being the guy that they're considering to be the quote-unquote addition. And now he's knocking the cover off the ball, and I think he's just proven the point. Whereas Mason Wynn, I think, is changing the perception of himself some, and he's having the type of spring where he's going to be a disruptor. And hopefully he goes to Memphis and keeps that going.
I think the impact that Wynn has had by folks getting to watch him in spring training games is maybe they better understand why the Cardinals didn't go all in on one of the big-ticket shortstops. I do think when you see what he can do, you're like, okay, I get it. We have Tommy there now. Wynn will be there shortly. I think a lot of people now believe he's a major league shortstop that can do a lot of different things. But I will say the Jordan Walker story, people knew the name, right? Maybe they saw him at winter warm-up in an interview. Maybe they got an autograph from him. Just the size of this guy and the enthusiasm, all right, you see that. Then you see what he can do on the field. And the fact that Mo has already said we're going to give him every opportunity to make the team, I think he's totally changed the script. People don't want him on the team. They want him starting and believe
batting
he
second.
Can be a key contributor. Maybe he can. It's a little early yet, to say that. But I think he's totally flipped the script. And then the other guys you mentioned, the guys coming back from injuries that have something to prove, you want to see that they look like they still have it to this point. Looks like they do. So that's my short take.
Yeah, and I'm trying to tamp down the expectations of Jordan Walker, especially for this season. But when you see this dude, and he's 6'6", 250, and he's 20, I mean, I look at a guy that I feel like is going to be an MVP. Not this year, but I'm talking 3-4 years from now.
Get the odds, baby,
Honestly,
if that's out there.
My buddy, Todd Furman, who's a big gambling guy, he was texting me, and he goes, you know what? I actually hope Jordan Walker doesn't start the year with the team so I can jump on his Rookie of the Year odds then with a better price. And then he comes right back up, hopefully, and wins Rookie of the Year.
I saw a plus 800 for him not too long ago for that.
I mean, he looks like a guy who could be one of the best players in baseball 2, 3, 4 years from now.
Well, you've seen so many guys over the last few years on all these different franchises who have come up and just been that guy right away. I mean, you saw it with Julio Rodriguez last year. You go back over the past few years, Acuna, Soto, all those guys. Why not have the Cardinals have their turn with one of those guys like that?